high net worth people, typically angel investors, but a very small fraction of them end up investing, in various reasons. But I feel like here there's a lot of awareness, and I think the potential is really good.
So Sushil, yeah, sure. Is more of a business, land and agriculture and buying and selling or making of apartments and hotels was a business. How do you see that transformation from investors' point of view in tier 3, tier 4 cities?
I think मुझे लगता है कि incubator accelerators का mentors का बहुत strong role होना चाहिए angel investing, because it is always supposed to be only by invite. I think that's the way I foresee this. Because 2 साल पहले पहला investment सूरत में था, पहला 13x का exit सूरत से मिला. So only thing is you have to consider small cities as the first priority. That's the way different startups है, पर वही का ecosystem आना चाहिए.
Uday, you want to answer?
So I think making every city have a startup city is probably unfair. I think there will be cities where technology or entrepreneurs will emerge, and there are cities where investors will emerge. I think Surat fundamentally is an investor city. The entrepreneurs might be from Bangalore. You can't have the same thing everywhere and say, there's an equal distribution.
Let's put this to rest right now. I know my आदत है, मैं मधुमक्खी के छत्ते में हाथ डाल देता हूँ. So we've set the context, whether it's Jodhpur, Surat, Bangalore, New York. We've set the context. Now let's come to the present and the future, so that we have a productive outcome rather than a debatable topic. Currently, India, the funding winter in Series B, C, D, which is trickled down to Series A, pre-Series A, because we as angels have to be careful, because we won't get exits if those numbers are not right. Valuations have become realistic, we've become cautious, but there's euphoria, there's optimism still at the early stage, idea stage companies. And irrespective of what city they are from, India is on a path where technology and startups will grow and angel investment will yield huge returns. Do you see, and many large companies have shut down, of late, and there's a huge amount, 35,000 layoffs in the last year and a half in the tech world, the startup ecosystem. Do you see this as a new normal going forward? I know that the question is to you. And this will now gradually build up and grow, and this will be the way that early stage, idea stage angel investment and further rounds will happen in India? Or you think we're going back to lower interest rates next year and economies improving globally and becoming emphatic about investing with high valuations? What is your take on the next 2-3 years?
So my take on this is, when you feel that everything is going down, start investing, because it will go up. Whatever goes down will go up, whatever goes up will come down. So the 2021 what happened was not sustainable. 2023 what happened is not sustainable.
But will it be I know, of course, nothing is, change is the only constant, but will it be gradual?
It will be a gradual move back, I think. So let's look at the environment. We had 400 companies got angel funded last year.
So it'll be gradual. I know we have two eternal optimists sitting here. So Gaurav, your take on it?
So there are 2-3 things. One, 2020 and 21, we have thought that pandemic is going to be average. And whatever layoffs you are seeing, the people, those who are hired at that period, so it's just a correction mode. I'm not worried about that, number one. Number two, one more quarter it will take to come to normalcy. I am seeing one more bad quarter. To be very honest with you, I don't see January, February, March is also going to be progressive. We have seen that seven consecutive quarters of down. This quarter is also not going to be good, and next quarter is also not going to be good. For me, the gradual growth is going to be coming from Apple, and I'm going to be seeing a very good times after that.
After Lok Sabha elections is what you are saying.
After
Lok Sabha elections. No, don't comment on that. The US economy goes every 4 years from election to election, so India भी जा सकता है, इसमें कोई बड़ी बात नहीं. Yes, Sushil.
तो Mahavir, India बहुत बड़ा मार्केट है. when I say from Rajasthan, so maybe Jaipur was very active, then Udaipur, Jodhpur and kind of city, and then so अभी पाली, बालोतरा, बाड़मेर, जैसलमेर बहुत सारी cities बाकी हैं. So angel investing में कभी challenge नहीं है. इंडिया बहुत बड़ा market है, बहुत capital है. So angel investment के perspective से इंडिया में कोई challenge नहीं है. I'm just giving a case study of Rajasthan. So I think looking to Gujarat also similar thing. So angel investing में कोई challenge नहीं आएगा. Starters will enjoy the journey.
Challenge है तो चिंता नहीं है. Valuations जो realistic हैं, जो numbers देखे जा रहे हैं, how deep we are going these days. Will that trend continue or will we become over enthusiastic and
वो तो realistic आ गया. Market में correction आता है, market improve होता है. I think gradually it will settle down.
Basically, then you think that.
That will again come back. After a year, we are going to be seeing the same.
Are all of us going to compete and make sure that there will be 3 term sheets sitting on the startup table? Will that happen again?
After 4 to 5 quarters,
we will get drunk again.
We will get drunk again and we will fall again.
Absolutely.
Okay.
There is no doubt about it. It happens in the stock market, it happens in public market, it happens in the private market.
Well, I don't know. I have been always a very careful investor. I've never. I said to those term sheet उनसे पहले ले मेरे से बाद में लेना कोई टेंशन नहीं. So I think it's. But you feel that people will go back to that. Jignesh.
Yeah, same. I mean, from a global perspective, same thing happened in the US, right? 2021, anybody could get funded. We invested in companies that had crazy valuations. Now it's a much better environment for investors. Gaurav said it's, there'll be a couple of bad quarters. I say they are good quarters.
Would things change if Trump came in next year?
Trump आएगा कि नहीं आएगा? I don't think.
नहीं हमारे को तो मालूम है कौन आएगा. आपको कंफर्म नहीं है?
मुझे मालूम नहीं है. I hope कि वो नहीं आएगा. That's just my view.
Good. So, okay. Now the next second, Gaurav set the context on the Indian revolt. I want you to tell me what is US on compliance. Of course, legal systems and all these things are much better, far evolved than they are in India. People don't do illegal things or try to fudge their books as much. They do in the US, but not as much as probably India can or India does. Kindly set a context for us in terms of governance, compliances, both from startups and angel investors' point of view in the US, and then we'll go into India, the other 3.
Yeah, so I would say, look, in the US, you have legal systems are definitely robust, and if somebody does fraud or commits any problems. But the issue is, in terms of governance and disclosure, it's still the Wild West. When you are talking about startup companies, the pitch book can say this, that, it's still viable. So what you are talking about, probably you're referring to, once a company is public, then the disclosures and everything is audited, and it's
not at early stage.
Early stage.
You don't see conflict of interest. You don't see non-disclosure.
You may have situations where
let's say WeWorks as an example.
WeWork is look again. WeWork is there are many examples.
No. Why I'm taking the wrong examples here is so that we learn and we make sure that there are checks and measures in place. And the idea is that people see all of us do know the processes, and we have advisors, legal and financial. Many first-time investors, and Surat being an investor city, we have come to that conclusion, more of an investor than a startup city. We need to educate them to be careful of wrongdoings by startups, wrongdoings by consortiums, wrongdoings by angel networks, wrongdoings by funds. So we need to just educate them. So you feel that US is a lot more trust, lot less conflict, or it's more disclosure required at early stage?
At the early stage, it's not regulated. So it is.
But as an angel, do you seek that?
Well, we seek it, but it's all, what I'm trying to say is that whether it's India or US, at early stage investing, you just have to do your due diligence, because even in US, because it's not regulated, anybody can write anything in a term sheet. The only recourse you have is, okay, after the fact, if you find here they inflated their revenue by 5x or something, okay, you can go to the courts and seek justice, and the courts are better, yes, but in the early stages.
But there are obviously bankruptcy laws that are very lenient in the US, unlike India. In India, your rating gets ruined every director or every partner has a personal guarantee on more or less any debt that they take. So obviously the stakes are much higher here, though there must not be much legal recourse, but at least with debt we have regulation here in India. And in the US it's there, but it's not there because bankruptcy laws are...
Most of the debt that companies take in the US is non-recourse. So you cannot go after personal assets.
Yeah, so Chapter 7, Chapter 11, all these, yeah, fair enough. Uday, your take on what startups have to do or should be doing, what an investor should be careful about, what are the learnings that we have today so that we can be a better, intelligent investor?
So I think finally for an investor, and I'll wear the investor hat here right now, the most important thing is who are you investing in? And I think that's where...
Most important thing is?
Who are you investing in?
Who are you investing with?
No, who are you investing on?
On, okay.
Okay, so who are you investing on? The founder is your key driver here. You're investing so early as angels that the only thing that you're investing on is really the founder and his vision.
But how tightly do you monitor MIS, quarterly reports, audits?
I think at the initial period, you should not be worrying too much about MIS and quarterly reports. You should be more worried about product market fit and product development.
After that, a year later?
I think once they start getting enough traction, that's when you should look at reports, what's the strategic view on what is the number he's tracking, what are the key metrics that we're tracking, because that's the time when you really have to hand over the baby to the VC.
What if the numbers, if the gap is higher than what they're saying, or if they have other conflicts and you know, then what do you do?
I've rarely found such situations.
But if you were to, what would you do?
So, you know, I would drop it, write it off.
You would forget your money.
Write it off and move.
Okay.
Okay, as angels are, you know, beyond a point you can't get into messy legal problems, you can't get into a battle. You know, if you have a portfolio, you have to focus on your winners and make sure that your winners take care of all.
Gaurav? Yeah, so I mean, it's because you have you are in 4 different sectors in the early stage idea stage, and from incubation accelerator to fund to network to foreign investors to Indian investors. So I think you have a very wide spectrum of people that you have to cater to. So your insight on this on different levels is very important.
So SEBI has gone a long way in compliances. Earlier,
Fund I understand.
no, I'm talking about angel fund. Because the introduction of the angel fund itself was a kind of a message to entire ecosystem that it is not regulated. Now they want to regulate it. And I'm telling you, because almost about 1,500 angels are now onboarded on our fund, it's very tough. Now SEBI is asking every month we are getting some letter, give us the detail of that detail. So practically speaking, compliances have gone to a very different level, you know, and that is there, which was not there. Up 2 years before, which was not there. Number one. Number two, as an organization, if I talk of eFounder Circle and entire organization, we were compliant organization from the day one, but from last 1 year, we have become more conscious.
You've gone on the fund level compliance. I'm talking about the startup level first.
That's what I'm saying. So startup, you know, in the startup also, we are now running a different decision engines also. Earlier, we were not doing certain, you know, information check and certain due diligences, which now we are doing maybe a bank statement, GST, and lot of details, lot of other details, which we are now doing.
So this thing with valuation reports every quarter or a SEBI registered fund. So you have to do all these checks before you can ascertain a value every quarter or year on year, right? Are you doing all that?
Yes, now every quarter we have a report from our startups. Earlier we were not. So before 1 year, you know, it was not so. This thing sometimes founder used to say, I will provide you next quarter or something like that. Now we are very communicating with them. We are educating them. Rather, we have provided our formats that we need in this. There is a 2 people team just monitoring that we need to get the data.
So basically, it's become, if it's regulated, it's good, it's better. If it is unregulated, then what Uday said, you have to let go because there's nothing much you can do for a small amount of investment because you're focusing on larger things. And that's as an individual angel rather than a SEBI monitored fund.
We have taken a very different stand in one of our company. You know, we have given a DAT, you know, we have syndicated a DAT for one of our startup company. We found that the founders have took out almost about 1.5 crores of salary from that company, and then they are now approaching us to shut down.
That is what conflict
No,
is.
so we are going behind them. We are using all our powers. We are going behind them.
You're taking exemplary action. You're taking exemplary action so
Yes,
that others realize that this is, whether it's Sequoia or InfoEdge, or actually going after people.
So the same startup said to me
that does instill fear in startups before they did something.
no, so Mahavir, I'm telling something very different. The same startup founder is saying that other funds are not going behind us. Why are you doing? So we said no. They may be taking the money from abroad or somewhere else. Our money is our local investors' money. We will be using all our powers, and we have all reasons. Because if it was a business loss, we could have not gone for that. But that's the reason.
Got it. Sushil.
So Mahavir, अपना क्वेश्चन था कि इंडियन स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम में लीगल चैलेंजेस हैं. Let's take it very forward because founders एंजल इन्वेस्टर से पैसा लेते हैं, उसको मालूम नहीं है स्पेसिफिकली अगर फर्स्ट टाइम इन्वेस्टर है तो मुझे लगता है 10% हमारा इन्वेस्टमेंट वो हुआ जब एंजल इन्वेस्टर पैसा डालना चाहता है स्टार्टअप में, बोलता है कि एक मैच्योर इन्वेस्टर ऑलरेडी चाहिए ताकि कंप्लायंस बेटर हो. तो मुझे लगता है ये एक इम्पॉर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट है किसके साथ आप पैसा डाल रहे हो एंजल इन्वेस्टमेंट. ये मैंने ट्रेंड देखा है इंडियन इकोसिस्टम में, और मुझे लगता है लीगल साइड एक चैलेंज है अभी करंट सिनेरियो में, फाउंडर्स एग्रीमेंट और लीगल एग्रीमेंट, एंजल इन्वेस्टमेंट एग्रीमेंट. तो और अर्ली स्टेज पे क्या आपको पैसा जल्दी चाहिए होता है, आप पैसा लेते हो फिर लौटते हो. इवन फाउंडर्स गुड है, आई डिफर फ्रॉम दैट.
आपको नहीं लगता कि मैंने कई फाउंडर्स देखे हैं जो प्री सीरीज ए एंड दिस इज फॉर सीरीज ए में दे हैव बिकम इन्वेस्टर्स देमसेल्व्स. They have not given me an exit and they are investing in other startups.
ये सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज
Is this not a conflict already?
ये 100%. तो ये चैलेंज आ रहा है.
Complete red flag.
बिल्कुल red flag है, but this is happening.
This is big time happening, and that's a challenge.
And I think which is where I say those founders should not be taken on board. Next round you should not get into it. You should make sure that no further investment happens. I think, see what happens is you can't really correct what the founders are doing today beyond the point. You can't be the police.
So someone who's raised 2-3 rounds and has some secondary exit, he or she starts to invest as a passive investor, not as an active investor. But when salaries of 1 crore or 2 crores are being taken and that money is being invested while you're still not given angel an exit, full exit, it's not right.
No, not.
So why should we not be regulating that amongst ourselves?
But I think I think it's a lot to do with the ecosystem, like he said. We need to be able to get everybody on board to say this is a red flag. The community has to stand up and say this is a red flag if we see it like this. It can't be just 3-4 people saying something.
That is why I'm discussing it on a forum.
Absolutely, sir.
So I had a very very interesting example. So I invested in one company and they were not doing so good. So I just called up them and wanted to check with them. After 5 minutes, that startup founder started talking to me. Sir, I have invested in this company. Now I am looking at this company. I have invested in last 6 months in 7 companies. And I was shocked. I thought as an investor, as a syndicator, we have syndicated for him. We have brought investors from him. I have called him to check that. And he is talking something totally, which does not make any sense. But that happens. That's happening.
I mean, I'm sure it's happening and we have to stay. So, last 5 minutes, we as angel investors, while we are one pillar of the ecosystem, how responsible should we be at an early stage, idea stage, not take too much equity, give fair valuations, give bridge rounds if required, do a follow-on round, be fair to the following round of investors. What, Gaurav, and I'll start with you and we'll come backwards and wrap this up. We as investors, how much responsibility or onus is with us or should be with us, and how we can be exemplary in our behavior to startups so that they don't get, because see, if someone gives away too much of equity in the first round, there will be no follow-on round. So if we are doing it because of our selfish follow-on rounds, it's a different story. But what is you as an individual investor or a network of angel investors, how do you look at it from our point of view as what should we be responsible to all the startups sitting in the room?
Number one, we do follow-on rounds, but we are very careful that it has to be a co-investing. We should not be leading that round. We are very clear that we never lead that round, and we should be rather only a 10, 20%, 30% investor in that round, because you have to give the capital visibility to the founders. That's one thing which you have to do. That we are doing, and we are not negotiating on some terms which normally, because recently I've got an example where we are 14% investor in that group of, that he's taking a 15 lakh rupees investment and he's negotiating with us to release some of the important key terms, you know, which we are not now allowing. We are not, so earlier what used to happen, and to my knowledge, that 15 lakh rupees round is just happening to assure that he can take the waiver for certain conditions from us. So that kind of examples are also coming recently.
Well, those are one-off cases, but in generally you feel that we should be very, very careful and honest to the startup and educate them more,
yes,
so that they don't dilute too much of equity. Is that a fair thing that we take oath or kind of?
Yeah, so Mahavir, what we have started doing from last 1 year, educating more about this. As I told you that we have started sharing the formats, other things. We are now bringing their CFO or the financial team on the call, that these are the requirements. Before giving the money, we bring their financial team in a call with our team, that these are the requirements which we'll be needing monthly basis, quarterly basis. That we are now doing, started doing that.
Great. Sushil?
मुझे लगता है भाभी इंडिया इकोसिस्टम यूएस और इंडियन इकोसिस्टम में बहुत बड़ा एक चैलेंज है कि प्री इंक्यूबेशन, एक्सेलरेशन, एंजल नेटवर्क और कैट वन फंड एंड कैट टू फंड सबको अपनी पोजीशन क्लियर करेंगे तो ये लीगल इश्यूज, इकोसिस्टम चैलेंजेस अपने आप सॉर्टेड होंगे. सब एक दूसरे के पैरामीटर में घुस रहे हैं, सब एक दूसरे के जगह जा रहे हैं, ये इश्यूज है. पहले हम लोग सब इंप्रूव हो जाएंगे, तो इकोसिस्टम इंप्रूव होगा तो स्टार्टअप फाउंडर्स अपने आप इंप्रूव हो जाएंगे. दैट इज माय स्टैंड. सो आई थिंक
लेकिन सुशील, हम वो माली हैं जो पौधे को सीड से लेके छोटा सा बनाते हैं. सो वी हैव टू बी द फर्स्ट रिस्पॉन्सिबल दिस थिंग. बाकी लोगों का रोल इतना कैट वन तो अपने मॉनिटर्ड है, हमने बात कर ली. हमारा रोल ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है मेरे हिसाब से. एंड आई थिंक वी शुड ऑल्सो रियलाइज दैट वी शुड बी वेरी फेयर टू द स्टार्टअप. इफ इट इज नॉट इन्वेस्टेबल, इट्स नॉट इन्वेस्टेबल. इफ द
एक्सपेक्टेशन सेटिंग शुड ऑल्सो बी.
हाँ, और वैल्यूएशन नहीं हो रही तो नहीं हो रही. उसका मतलब ये नहीं कि उसको 50 लाख चाहिए और वैल्यूएशन 1 करोड़ है तो 50% लेना है. Now that is a balance that we have to insist on. That you.
I think it's important to walk the founder through the next 3-4 stages with him. I think what happens is most of us think that this is going to be the only round, and the founder also thinks कि आप मेरे को 1-2 करोड़ मिल जाएगा, मेरी गाड़ी निकल जाएगी. The problem is that's just the beginning, and like you said, Mali, you're really germinating the seed and you're not really making a tree out of it. So as our role, we have to walk him through the next 2-3 stages.
That's a good idea. If you walk with him, you yourself will realize what equity to take, what valuation to give, or what not to give.
Exactly. Otherwise, there's no steps.
So that's a great idea. Sushil, आप बोल रहे हैं.
मैं सिर्फ आपको बोल रहा हूँ कि हम हार्डवर्क मनी देते हैं. आपने बोला हमारी खुद की मनी होती है, हम जाते हैं. तो राइट वैल्यूएशन पे, राइट एडवाइस, राइट मेंटरशिप वो आपको करनी चाहिए. इसीलिए भाई इनवाइट होना चाहिए तो मजा आता है.
Exactly.
एंजल्स आर ओनली सपोज्ड टू बी बाय इनवाइट.
And I personally tell someone to get a good strategic investor, not only domain expert, but someone who will get you help in the follow-on rounds, because it's very, very important. Otherwise,
so I've seen some early stage investors, very early stage investors who don't have the experience tend to get greedy. And I think I've seen, and it's unfortunate, I've seen a couple of very good high potential startups who've given away 20-30% very early in their journey, have brought in, who brought in advisors who've taken significant amount of stake. And I think that's hurt the startup more than really, help it grow. So these are very fine balances which you have to help the founder with. Take these rough, tough decisions and say, don't do this will hurt you in the long run, because that's the only
got it. हाँ सुशील.
किससे ओपिनियन लेना है और किससे पैसा लेना है, फाउंडर की इतनी स्मार्टनेस होनी चाहिए, मैं तो ये मानता हूँ. और आपको स्मार्ट फाउंडर चाहिए, सीधा फाउंडर नहीं चाहिए, ये भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. तो ओपिनियन किससे लेना है, पैसा किससे लेना है.
कई बार अच्छे टेकीज होते हैं, बेचारे स्मार्ट नहीं होते, उनका एडवांटेज भी नहीं लेना चाहिए. इज व्हाट आई वाज ट्राइंग टू से, बिकॉज़ सम टेक्नोलॉजी किड्स आर वेरी नॉट एज स्मार्ट, street smart.
Like we have a clear rule that first round में यदि 8% से ऊपर dilute कर रहा है founder, तो हम उसको educate करते हैं, कभी भी नहीं करेंगे.
Agree.
Never ever.
So 8% for you.
So 7 to 8% से ऊपर यदि वो first round में raise कर रहा है, we never allow that. We say that don't do this.
Jignesh, your thoughts.
So there is no question that, as angel investors, it's not just our duty to write a check, but you have to be there for the founders. I'll give you an example. Like there's one company where world-class researcher starting a company in the biotech space, but he's a scientist, right? So you have to be able to provide, each other commercial. How are you going to make this commercial? What's the viability? And here's my, you have to provide that. Good angel investors will provide that. Now, one point that I want to make, even if we're going slightly over.
इन्होंने बहुत बोला. Go ahead.
Then, in terms of a foreign investor perspective, I want to say this. Foreign investors coming into India, and Kanwal Rekhi has written about this, the co-founder of TiE. India somehow has gone backwards in terms of attracting or making foreign capital welcome in the startup world. So now there is a 20-page, and I haven't done this personally yet, but once I invest in one or two of the companies, or maybe if this is too onerous, I won't. But there's a 20-page RBI document which you have to take. Oh, what's the money for? Why is it coming?
Yeah. So that's a conversation for some other day, and taking money out of
No, but
India is very difficult.
I want to pitch to you and all the leaders here, do something to make foreign capital a little more welcome. The second one is repatriability. If you can solve that problem, like my money is in rupees and I can bring it back.
We as fund managers or angels do realize that. And that is why Gift City, which is in Ahmedabad, is one solution that the government has come up with. And of course there are in the Mauritius and Singapore and Dubai. I'm just saying that we are creating funds in these countries and it comes as a single entity and K1s are fine. So it's a very long conversation. It's a point, it's an absolute valid point, and for people who have to raise money for their funds, it is a big challenge, and I totally agree with that. But the topic for some other day and conversations for some other day. Thank you guys, you've been spectacular.